In other big news, so this is the retro show, okay?
Yeah.
We've got Dark Crystal and stuff. We also have Confrontation, obviously of fame of Rackham,
Yep.
okay? So anybody who's been in the hobby since about, it would have kind of imploded in around 2010. 2009, 2010 Confrontation.
Yeah, I just missed the boat
imploded.
on it because I was just getting in at that time.
Me
To
too.
give you
me too.
a bit of background, Confrontation was the first miniatures range that actually gave Games Workshop a run for its money.
Really?
Right, Games Workshop had basically sat in the industry completely uncontested for a couple of decades.
Before I walked into Beasts of War that first time, I didn't know there were any other miniature game lines.
Yep.
I thought it was all Games Workshop.
The only company that back in those days that ever gave Games Workshop a run for their money, and I remember talking to Jez Goodwin. Is it Jez Goodwin? Yes. I remember talking to Jez about this, and Jez was such a fan of the sculpts and their sculptors. Jez is an incredible sculptor and an incredible human being as well. And I remember him telling me just how much he admired what the guys at Rackham had done. But Rackham had created this fantasy world called Confrontation, and their sculpts were absolutely beautiful. Now, Rackham imploded. Okay, basically what had happened is that Rackham took a giant bet. Okay, and they had a sci-fi game called AT-43, and they had Confrontation. And AT-43 was doing quite well, but Rackham took this giant bet on pre-painted miniatures. Okay, WizKids had started to do pre-paints, and they'd been doing quite well. And all the research suggested that pre-paints were going to be the way to go in the United States market. And in order to get big in tabletop gaming, it's the US, okay? US, UK, Europe, but really it's the US. That's where you need to make your big dent.
And important it was, this was all done before Kickstarter was on the scene.
Yes, there was no Kickstarter or anything like that back at this time. So they took this gigantic bet on pre-paints. And so they had the AT-43 stuff, which came out pre-painted.
Yep.
And they had then they took Confrontation into pre-paints. The difficulty was that compared to the miniatures that they had, the metal sculpts and stuff that they had, the pre-paints bombed. The quality of them was, on some instances, was great. And in other instances, it was really ropey because it was a really difficult thing to pull off. More so than that, it was a stupendously expensive thing to pull off. So the company really did bet the farm on it, and it imploded. They failed, unfortunately. But so many of us look back at that Confrontation range of miniatures, and we just, you could weep with their Wolfmen. Were beautiful. Now, here's
them knocking around the office.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing. I guarantee that any of you, even new viewers of Beasts of War, who have bought into Kickstarters and stuff like that recently, already have miniatures done by the same sculptors, because whenever Rackham did finally fold, there were a group of the most talented sculptors in the world that then just diversified out and started to work all throughout the industry. And so many of the sculpts that we have drilled over this past 7-8 years since have been as a result of the same team that was behind this.
And when they were there, I mean, like, I've seen some of the resin sculpts that they used to do.
Yeah.
They were light years ahead. There was one that was like a castle golem, I remember we built it. We opened up an old box of Confrontation, pulled this thing out. Each part was individually clipped out and put into a molded bit of plastic, but it had like a red velvet covering, and it just had such a quality feel to it. I almost felt bad when we put it together.
It's incredible work. Now, this week, in this piece of news, Sans Detour have made the announcement that they're bringing Confrontation back, and it's coming to Kickstarter in April.
There's those Wolfmen you were talking about.
You can fill us in.
Yeah, so Sansator, as you say, are going to be taking both the Confrontation Classic range, which is the miniatures that you see here, and also their own version of this called Resurrection to Kickstarter this year, right? So this one is called Confrontation Classic, and it will be taking all of the factions. They're not going to leave any of them out from the old range and bringing them back in their own new sets for you to go and pick up and to play around with and use on the tabletop once more. This also means they're going to be looking at the rules as well. So hopefully for a lot of people, this means it'll be the first time you get to look at the rules in the correct translations and everything like that. A lot of people have been talking about whether or not this seems like whether or not this Kickstarter's on the level and stuff. But from what we've seen so far, the guys at Sansator seem to be really on point with everything they're doing here. They seem to be very much engaged with this, talking with the community, and they've been doing live streams and all sorts of different things like that. So if you like the Confrontation range or you felt like you missed out, this April seems like it's going to be a pretty big opportunity if you get stuck in and picking up some of these miniatures, because as you can see, they look absolutely amazing. So it'll be really good if this actually does come back and reinvigorates that fantasy world on the tabletop.
The Wolfen are just
they have always blown me away.
No, for me, it had to be those goblins. I love that guy with the wings.
Yeah,
honestly, it's this little dude down the front who's on a broomstick with the rocket gun. It's just super cute.
It is. It is amazing. I'm really interested to see where they go with that, because Confrontation has been interesting because the IP of it looked like it had been quite broken up and quite difficult for people, because at one point I believe even Cool Mini or not, before they came Simon, had the partial rights to some of it.
There was a video game in the work.
For Wrath of Kings, the Goretzi, I believe, have some of the old sculpts in their faction redone to work within the world.
Yeah, but this could be an opportunity to really see the return of Confrontation, and I am really keen to see what they do with the rules, because I don't want them to bring back the rules exactly as they were.
I see.
Time has moved on. Game mechanics in the industry has moved on, so it's time for a fresh look. I'm not a big fan of these resurrected rules from eons gone by. There's better ways to play games these days, and it's nice to see.
I think that's where you're going to see things shift in that direction with Resurrection later this year on Kickstarter. So as long as Classic goes well, I assume.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine they're going to do a little bit of a revamp for the rules and the model range as a whole going forward. But as you say, this was a range that I actually completely missed out on. I never really heard about it until like a couple of whisperings had come out of like FFG and stuff like that, and seeing their Cadwallon City of Thieves game as well. But it's been very nice looking at some of the stuff they've been previewing, especially for the Wolfen, as you say, and also some of their undead models as well look absolutely amazing. But,
yeah. Well, I mean, like I remember Romain, our painter, always going into his local friendly gaming store. I believe it's Ludic's Bazaar, and they always seem to have like one box in the back that just always had a little bit of it in there that you could just go hook through if you want a nice miniature to work on.
Yeah. Well, they were based in Paris, so a lot of their old stock ended up just staying in Paris, and there was a couple of key outlets where you were always able to get some of the old Confrontation and AT-43 stuff. Nice. I'm still a huge fan of the AT-43 Carmens. That's the Sapiens. The
that's the one we got turned into a big army for town.
I'm always on the lookout for Carmens. Anybody has any of them AT-43 gorillas and monkeys out there, and you're looking short of it, hook me up, man. Hook me up. That's my plastic crack, because some of these days I will have an army that's so big, and then I'm just going to go to town on a big full conversion of the whole thing, because it is going to be my default sci-fi army. So in other words, I'm trying to create, and we've had a forum topic about this in the community, about a portable sci-fi army that you could take from game to game. So for me, it's the Monkey Men of Mars, man. It's so I want because they have flyers, they have heavy support teams, they have troopers, and they have specialists. And pretty much for any sci-fi game, that's all you need.
Yeah, although Warren, let's not say they're from Mars. The only thing that should be coming from Mars is the biker mouse.
No, well. So I'll get my spoke in there. If anybody has any of them old monkeys and you're not using them, hook me up, man. Hook me up.